Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand and on your favorite streaming channels.
We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached over 10 million views.
We are also proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida. We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in the LGBTQ community. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Tuesday, May 27th. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we'll tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show. Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 10,000 LGBTQ television stories. We will produce the 25th anniversary of our Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th. We present Pride Fest in August and Pride Fort Lauderdale in February. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader communities.
In 2025, more than 100 community leader anchors will host this show to support the LGBTQ+ community. Let's meet today's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ publications and websites. Gregg, 30 Days of Pride, Mermaids and Mermen, A Splash of Pride on Wednesdays in June at Bee Ocean Resort. Tell me, what's happening out?
Fort Lauderdale's iconic rec bar at Bee Ocean Resort is making waves this Pride Month with Mermaids and Mermen, A Splash of Pride. A dazzling underwater spectacle featuring male and female performers held every Wednesday at 8 p.m. through June 25th. The Burlesque show offers a unique twist on burlesque performed behind the bar's porthole windows, completely submerged. With tickets priced at $46 per person, guests can expect a one-of-a-kind experience for Pride, blending aquatic choreography, playful camp, and high-energy entertainment. For more details and reservations, visit beoceanresort.com. Queer News Tonight is celebrating 30 Days of Pride by promoting 16 dazzling events in the LGBTQ community, so stay tuned. Did you know that scenes from the 1999 movie Analyze This with Billy Crystal and Robert De Niro were filmed at the rec bar? Have you ever been to the rec bar?
No.
It is so cool. It's like an incredibly cool place. And then Rick and I, my husband and I, attended the Mermen show at Rec Bar a couple of years ago, and it was erotic and entertaining. And the food was also delish, and so were the drinks. So
wow.
I recommend it. It's a hoot.
Yeah, that's going to be very exciting. I also saw Damien Lenore was in those pictures there, so you know it's going to be a very hot show.
Right.
I love it.
Nice.
All right. Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at Mermaids and Mermen, A Splash of Pride on Wednesdays in June. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Larry Farver. Larry has over 20 years of experience in human resources, acting, film, radio, TV, live events, parade float design, production, and casting. He is also a board member of the West Side Association. Larry, 30 Days of Pride, Island City University returns to train civic leaders. Admission closes on May 30th. Tell me, what's happening out?
Sure, Jasmine. Wilt Manors will host the 2025 session of Island City University, or ICU, a free educational program aimed at civic-minded residents and future public service leaders. This 7-week initiative kicks off on July 7th, 2025, and runs through August 11th, culminating in a graduation on August 26th at 7 p.m. during the regular City Commission meeting. Held at Hagan Park and City Hall Commission chambers, sessions will explore city operations from departments like police, fire, finance, and leisure services. Dinner is provided at 6, with classes running from 6:15 to 8 p.m. Organized by the city, ICU invites LGBTQ individuals and allies to apply by May 30th, which is coming up this week. Residents interested in leadership or volunteering are encouraged to apply. Enjoy this unique learning experience. Queer News Tonight is celebrating 30 Days of Pride by promoting 16 dazzling events in the LGBT community. So stay tuned. And if you do want more information, please check out the ICU at wiltonmanors.gov. I know I plan on it, and I hope we see you there. Thank you.
Well, I think an educational program aimed at civic-minded residents and future public service leaders sounds like a fantastic idea, especially right now.
Yes.
This is the time.
Amen. I'm trying to figure out how to fit it in my schedule if I could.
I just wish every city did it.
Yeah,
and I also, it kind of inspires me because I'm constantly the nag on the table saying, this community needs to get our
Civics.
shit together.
Yes.
And this is the perfect example of it.
Wilt Manors is for a small city. I mean, the encouragement of opening up boards and committees to residents. I mean, I got involved almost 2 years ago in the West Side Association, and it's led to other things, and I'm on a first name basis with some of the leaders.
But what's important is you're learning the reality of how government works. Government is not a business.
Yes.
Government is not a nonprofit. It's a crazy child between the two. And people don't understand how the balance of all the workings happens.
And you get to appreciate, and I'm saying this in a complimentary way, but the inner workings of not only cities, but the city and the county.
Exactly, but that's my point.
State, yes.
You're understanding local governments, county governments, and as it goes up.
Absolutely.
And it's an unusual animal, all of its own, and people just don't necessarily understand the limits and the happenings.
When they have the Friday to apply, so hopefully they get their applications in.
Absolutely.
All right, Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Island City University's free civil education program on July 7th. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Buddy Frey. He supports many of South Florida's local nonprofit organizations like Julian's Fountain of Youth and Stonewall National Museum, Archives, and Library. Buddy, 30 Days of Pride, Roosters Rising, a legacy of pride and resilience comes to South Florida from June 2nd through the 30th. Tell me, what's happening out?
Well, it's a really interesting exhibition, and Roosters Rising, a Legacy of Pride and Resilience opens on June 2nd at the Richard and Pat Johnson Palm Beach County History Museum in West Palm Beach, running through June 30th, and folks, it's closed on Sundays. The exhibition is presented by the Historical Society of Palm Beach County, and it chronicles the vibrant history of H.G. Roosters, a beloved gay club operating since the 1940s. The community is invited to a free opening reception on June 4th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Roosters itself. Roosters is located at 823 Belvedere Road in And following that, it's followed by a lively after party for guests that are age 21 and up. Admission is free, and for more information, it's available at pbchistory.org. Queer News Tonight is always celebrating 30 Days of Pride by promoting 16 dazzling events in the LGBT community, so stay tuned. You know, this is really important because this is our history. You know, we always know what's going on today, down the block, around the corner, what sports league, what bar, what night, you know, what nonprofit event. But this is great to know that, you know, there's been a presence in Palm Beach County since the early 40s. And it's wonderful to be able to say that that is 86 years ago, 85 years. Now, I understand it was closed for a little bit because they had some
fire,
They had a fire.
Yeah.
But, you know, for 85 years, we've had a presence in Palm Beach County that most people overlook. And not for nothing, I didn't know about, but the younger generations don't know about. They think Wilton Manors is it. That's it. You know, the Palace in Miami and Wilton Manors, you know, and it's like a little more than that, okay?
Well, I love the timing of this story because 2 days ago, after our first experience on Worth Avenue in Palm Beach, we went strolling down Worth Avenue. Rick and I stopped into HG Roosters in West Palm Beach for a couple of mocktails, and they've done a fabulous job on the renovation, and it's exciting that shortly after their opening, HG Roosters is the subject of a well-deserved museum exhibit. I think that's something to crow about.
Well, I'm excited. I gotta get one of my new wigs and tease her up and get ready to go do a stroll in Roosters myself. I haven't been there since way before the fire, so you know, I can't wait to see what it looks like now. I'm sure it's beautiful.
It is.
They deserve it.
They do.
Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Roosters Rising, a legacy of pride and resilience on June 2nd. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Jasmine Pryce Lords. Jasmine Pryce Lords has been lighting up stages since 2009. She is the Florida mother of the legendary House of Lords and hosts Sunday service at the Well each week. A classically trained musician, Jasmine also works with the Outshine Film Festival as a festival coordinator. Jasmine, 30 Days of Pride, Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino World Record Drag Brunch will be held on June 1st. Tell us what's happening out.
Queer News Tonight launches its 30 Days of Pride celebration by promoting 16 dazzling events in the LGBTQ community. One such event will be held at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino on Hollywood on June 1st. The drag brunch is aiming to break the Guinness World Record for the largest drag brunch. Promises spectacle, glamour, and community spirit. The number to beat is 412 people. The event also supports the Pride Center at Equality Park, which hopes to raise $175,000. Hosted by Alex Miranda, the brunch will feature performers like Michael Dean as Cher and other known South Florida drag stars like Daisy Dead Petals, Velvet Lenore, Erica Norell, and Aaliyah J. The $150 ticket event includes raffles, luxury giveaways, and a signature balloon pop. For further details, ticket purchases, and donations, please visit pridecenterflorida.org. I know this is going to be an amazing, fun event. Obviously, the entertainers listed there are all amazing. We know them all. They turn the party everywhere they go. And from working drag brunches, it's a lot of usually straight people and allies more than anything.
Right.
So at this time, what a great way to show up and show out, to see that many people hopefully come together and outside of our immediate community to show up for that. That'd be beautiful.
And during Pride, and speaking of allies, don't bury the lead. Anna Navarro is going to be there. She loves us, and we love her back. How exciting is that? That's amazing.
Yeah, and Alex Miranda, I really love him.
So it's going to be a great show.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm excited. I'll be there. Just to bother Erica Norell, if anything. Well, I'm not getting paid, so Jasmine will be at home, but Jason will be there enjoying a great brunch.
Yes, good.
I spent $150 to put a wig on. Okay.
And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino World Record Drag Brunch on June 1st. That's a big LGBTQ story for today. There's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Jasmine Pryce Lords, and let's queer up the USA view. GLAAD finds many Americans would avoid brands with Pride merch. NYC Pride loss of $750,000 proves it. A new poll released just before Pride Month reveals a troubling trend. Nearly twice as many Americans say they'd avoid shopping at brands that sell Pride merchandise as they'd be more likely to support them. The GLAAD commissioned poll, conducted by Ipsos, asked Americans how queer Pride collections affected their shopping habits. Only 15% said Pride merch would make them more likely to buy from a brand, but 27%, almost double, said they'd be less likely to shop there. The majority, 55%, said it wouldn't affect their decisions. Among Black non-Hispanic respondents, only 8% said they'd be more likely to buy from a brand with a Pride gear, and 11% said they'd be less likely. 77% said it made no difference. Hispanic respondents were more supportive, with 19% saying it would positively influence their decision. When asked if it would be a shame if brands stopped supporting Pride, more Americans disagreed. 48% then agreed at 46%. However, these statistics are not surprising for many in the community, and what happened with NYC Pride proves it. NYC Pride just announced a $750,000 budget shortfall for 2025. Organizers say it's directly tied to corporate sponsors scaling back or backing out entirely. NYC Pride co-chairs Kaz Alexander and Michelle Mira said that the organization has reached just 75% of its 2025 fundraising goal. The 25% gap, they said, jeopardizes not just the number of floats, vendors, and performers at this year's event, but also the organization's grant programs. That is just terrible. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us aren't surprised as we're seeing what's happening here.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what this administration has been trying to do, trying to block us from showing up and showing out. And what little footing we've made, they're trying to find a way for us to lose it. And I think this is an example of a slippery slope.
Although those numbers, 55%, 77%, those were good numbers. And those 27%, they can go fuck themselves.
Well, but it's not surprising, and life is high school, you know?
Yeah.
The mean kids get in charge, and suddenly anybody who's borderline mean and could get away with it suddenly is out to be mean. Right. But then if the good guys get in, the fun kids get involved, well, then everyone's out for a good time. This is no different than high school, but unfortunately it's life-changing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, and I mean this sincerely, with as much wealth as the LGBT community has, and I'm not saying everyone is wealthy.
Right.
I'm just saying that there are certain brands and certain actors and musicians and whatever. Mm-hmm. Literally, it's not the end of the world for them to just pony up just a little bit. But at the same time, the community at large, rich and poor, we need to get our ass together. We need to mobilize. Mm-hmm. We need to get involved in politics and city,
absolutely,
and city ethics. And we need to be more involved.
No,
and
it's the New York City
get over this shit.
Mm-hmm, I agree with you, Buddy. And the New York City Pride Parade was one of the first great experiences I had outside of New York, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And, I even helped build Pride, that my indoctrination into doing some volunteer work was helping build some of the parade floats that appeared on, the avenues in New York. So I have faith in what you said, that there'll be some actors that are going to rise to the occasion. They don't necessarily need to be corporate sponsors.
No. Do it privately. Do
absolutely.
It so that nobody knows, and we just have a sense of relief. But it's not just, it's not just the party of pride. It's the organizations that suffer. I'm from St. Louis. St. Louis Pride has lost, I think, $150,000 this year that they're short. Mm-hmm. And it's going to hit every major city. And it's not just the celebration and the pride and the fun and the drinks and the parade. It's the organizations and the money that we raise that survives throughout the year.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's what's important.
And I think also another thing, the things about the number of the stores, their corporate sponsors and stuff, Target is finding out right now with all their DEI stuff, how quickly they are dropping in sales. All of the stuff that has been happening with them and their brand is going to continue. We're awake. We have access to information. TikTok and Instagram is allowing us to share these stories very quickly. And that's why it's important for for us to be able to communicate and give this information and make sure that our community is aware. Because if you're not, you're very easily going to go and support Target, who is literally standing against you.
Yeah, turning their back on us.
And I keep interrupting and dominating this conversation.
No.
I apologize, but corporate America, I don't care if you have a stupid ass T-shirt in rainbow colors. Just don't cut the program dollars. Don't cut the nonprofit dollars. Keep all the glitter and all the shoes and the light up crap and whatever.
Right.
I don't care about that in the store.
No.
But don't stop supporting the nonprofits, the teen programs, the health programs. It's just too important. This is about people's lives, not about selling a T-shirt.
Amen. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Buddy Frey, and let's queer up politics. Does the most LGBTQ-friendly president in history have the most anti-LGBTQ cabinet in history? Supporters of Donald Trump and the Log Cabin Republicans have called him the most LGBTQ-friendly president in history. But to many of us in the gay community, this claim is laughable and dangerously out of touch with reality, as the so-called LGBTQ-loving president has one of the most anti-LGBTQ cabinets in history. In Trump's second administration, his cabinet is stacked with officials whose records on queer rights range from indifferent to outright hostile. These are people now in charge of our health care, housing, education, and more. At the State Department, Marco Rubio, who once spoke at a rally hosted by a hate group after the Pulse massacre, is erasing gender non-conforming people from official records and trying to roll back passport gender changes. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has ordered commanders to flag trans troops for review. He once called trans people, quote, dudes in dresses. At the Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is dismantling queer health care, slashing access to HIV prevention and transition services. Pam Bondi, now Attorney General, once called adoption by LGBTQ people a serious public harm. She praised the Don't Say Gay laws and fought same-sex marriage in Florida. And at Housing and Urban Development, Scott Turner quietly removed protections for trans people in homeless shelters. Yes, Trump appointed a gay Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, but critics note he said nothing about queer poverty or economic inequality. If this is what is called LGBTQ-friendly, President's cabinet looks like, it's no wonder the community is sounding the alarm. Now, it's taking every ounce of me not to just get obscene about this story because it is so insulting and so dangerous and ridiculous. But I just don't understand, and I have family members that are Republicans that are constantly telling me about the log cabin Republicans, and I have friends that are log cabin Republicans, and I just don't understand what they're saying that I'm not. Because my view of life isn't full of Kool-Aid and rose-colored glasses. It's a very real story.
These are not gay men. These are miserable and self-loathing homosexuals. There's a difference between being a homosexual and being gay, and these are the most miserable and self-loathing people, and I hope each and every one of them has the worst Pride Month of their lives this year.
But it's not just that. It's the straight community, my family, sitting there telling me and using the log cabins against me, and
But how much they don't know? But how much do they know about it? They hear it, but
I understand, but it's just it's ridiculous.
It's filtered through the right media.
Right.
I have family
Fox
too,
News.
and I can feel your pain, buddy. And I sit there and have relatives say, "Don't, Larry, they love the gays. Trump loves." I'm like, "You kidding me?" I said, tell me how Trump loves the gays. Tell me how he's supporting my trans brothers and sisters that I support and work with creatively.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how that's happening. And they
That's
can't
what
answer
love
that
looks
question.
like to you. I don't want it.
Well, but it's not only that, it's important, especially when we're talking about, I mean, I understand the tenderness and the severity of trans lives. Don't get me wrong on this. But to eliminate or downsize the HIV training.
Everything.
How many straight people,
You're right.
bisexual men, on the down low, screwing around on their wife, their girlfriend, and their girlfriend's girlfriend, when it suddenly hits the straight community,
Right.
shit's going to hit the fan. But why does it have to get that far?
Well, when they start loading log cabin Republicans into concentration camps, maybe then they'll snap out of it and realize that these people are not their friends. That could be the thing.
Well, this is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Into this big LGBTQ story for today, I'm Gregg Shapiro, and let's queer up entertainment. Benito Skinner, Overcompensating star, asked to not do straight roles? Who should? In a casting culture that's long excluded queer actors from telling their own stories and also recommended straight actors avoid playing queer characters, a new twist is unfolding, one that flips the script, and not in a good way. Benito Skinner, the multi-talented queer actor, comedian, and creator of Prime Video's Overcompensating, says he's been actively discouraged from even auditioning for straight roles. Talking to Attitude, he said, quote, "I've wanted to play a straight role, and people have asked not to see a tape. And I'm like, okay." So I think a lot of queer actors feel that way, like, we can't come into these spaces, or we could never do that, end quote. At 31, Skinner is no stranger to Hollywood's double standards. As conversations rage about whether straight actors should play gay roles, his experience raises a new and unsettling question. Should queer actors be boxed out of straight roles too? In the same interview, Skinner reflected on the depth that LGBTQ actors bring to queer characters, depth that can't be mimicked by someone who hasn't lived that reality. Still, he added, quote, "If there was more of a balance, I would feel like, of course, it's acting. You're telling stories. I think it's beautiful that a lot of people can tell these stories," end quote. For queer audiences, Skinner's words hit home. In a space where LGBTQ performers still fight to be cast in queer roles, being shut out of straight roles too is more than irony, it's injustice. So we ask, is it right to look at sexual orientation as a determinant of an actor playing the role? Well, I know that this is going to be very unpopular, my response, but here goes. While he's certainly hot, at 31, Benito Skinner would probably be as convincing playing a straight character as he is playing a college freshman in Overcompensating. So, acting.
Yeah, I do understand the point where there's not many queer roles, and then to have those queer roles played by straight people, I understand that. But to say that queer people can't play straight characters because we don't, no, that's not.
We've been doing it for years.
We've been doing it forever.
Well, yeah, since prior to the 80s, you know, anyone who was gay played straight roles because there were no gay roles.
And even was that Modern Family, isn't the gay couple isn't one of them straight?
Yeah.
But it's the way that it's done, right? So there is a space created for a queer person, and they have it. And then the way that other character is played, it's not in a degrading way. It's not telling our stories in a way that isn't intended, right? And I think we've lost a lot of that. They usually play the trans women in this like terrible, embarrassing, manly way, right? Instead of the trans women we know who are all beautiful and not to use this problematic word, they're more passing, but we don't get to see that often in media because they pick the most manliest man to play that character, right? And now you're telling our stories in a way that's inauthentic, it's not true, it's not real, and that's harmful to our community. I think that's kind of the difference, but I don't think we see that. Like, how is he going to ruin a straight character? Like, what? harm.
Right.
Well, if you're an actor, I don't see why you would want to limit yourself.
Right.
You shouldn't ever.
And I know that there's another side of the coin, about being PC. Sometimes I've done some voluntary casting for some of the creative things I'm involved in. And we had a whole discussion on Indigenous people. And can we kind of tweak it a little bit? Do we have to go with an authentic Indigenous person, or can we get someone who looks Indigenous? And I can see sometimes that side of it.
Sure.
But at the same time, if you're talking about sexuality, that's something that I think, someone should have an opportunity to portray, whether they identify with that sexuality or not.
But
It's acting. It's called acting.
But also,
You can
but in this story, it's not. I don't think it's necessarily talking about the sexuality of the character. I think it's talking about, can you as an actor, regardless of your private life, play this character?
Right.
And shock and behold, Hollywood is like, no, because again, they only see black actors in one category, black women in another category, Latina women in a third category, gay men is
they're still compartmentalized.
yeah, it's very, and
Right.
the world is not that way anymore. I'm not saying that characters don't exist. I
Right.
mean, not all of us grew up the butchest kids on the block,
Right.
but we grow up into men and we become men.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know?
you go look at the example I think of when I was growing up, watching the Brady Bunch and Robert Reed.
Right.
Was the dad.
And when I found out he was gay, I was kind of thought, he was such a positive role model. And while he said years later after he did that role, he hated playing that, and that was not his most challenging and most satisfying role, I felt that he was such a positive role model and convincing playing the role he did. It didn't matter that he was gay privately. He wasn't ready to come out. Our society was very different than it is today as we sit here. So.
By Dick Sargent on Bewitched.
Right.
I mean, it's the
Marlon.
list is
Long.
so long. Yes.
Marlon Brando, James Dean,
Yeah.
Talma.
And then we had some at
Laurence Olivier.
Yes.
we had some folks who said that they weren't gay, but we all knew they were, and they were
Right.
accepted.
Yeah.
Paul Lenz,
Yeah.
Right.
Liberace.
You know.
Yes.
Okay, well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Larry Farver, and let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Attorney General threatens a South Florida gym for allowing men posing as women in locker room. Florida officials are once again drawing fire from the LGBTQ community, this time for pressuring a private gym owner over its inclusive locker room policy. Attorney General James Uthmeyer, recently appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis, sent a threatening letter to Lifetime Fitness in Palm Beach Gardens for allowing transgender members to use facilities that align with their gender identity. In the letter, Uthmeyer claimed that this policy, quote, harms and endangers, end quote, women who use private facilities at the gym, and accused the gym of, quote, letting men posing as women, end quote, use women's locker rooms. What's missing from Uthmeyer's letter is any actual Florida law that applies. And I think that that's very important to let that sink in. The 2023 Florida bathroom law, designed by DeSantis as part of a so-called, quote, slate of hate, end quote, only governs public buildings like schools, prisons, and the state capitol. It does not apply to private businesses like Lifetime, Palm Beach County, where the gym is located. Also, it has a human rights ordinance protecting gender identity. However, Uthmeyer has dismissed that, claiming it doesn't apply because it lacks specific bathroom language.
I'm Attorney General James Uthmeyer. Recently, my office became aware of a complaint against Lifetime Fitness in Palm Beach Gardens, putting women and girls at risk. Instead of following Florida's Civil Rights Act, they've decided to let men into women's locker rooms. That is wrong, and we are not going to stand for it. Let me be clear. Florida law protects spaces designated for women. No local ordinance or woke corporate policy can override that. Lifetime Fitness tried to hide behind a misread county code, but the law is crystal clear. And so is my message. Men do not belong in women's restrooms or locker rooms, period. Across the country, we've seen what happens when businesses ignore biology and common sense and bend to the trans activist agenda. We see assaults, exploitation, and fear. No business is going to be allowed to facilitate the invasion of women's restrooms and locker rooms, not in Florida. Just as we are taking the fight to social media corporations for facilitating the exploitation of children, we will defend the safety, privacy, and dignity of women and girls. If Lifetime Fitness does not immediately reverse this dangerous policy, my office will take swift legal action. Florida is a law and order state, and we will not back down from the fight to keep this state safe, strong, and free.
The Florida Civil Rights Act of 1992 bans discrimination, quote, because of race, color, religion, sex, pregnancy, national origin, age, handicap, or marital status, end quote, and calls for the state to, quote, protect the interest in personal dignity, end quote. But it does not mention the bathroom use or changing facilities or even gender identity. On the other hand, a 2021 agency interpretation says Florida does protect gender identity in housing, employment, and public accommodations. Despite this legal reality, Lifetime Fitness seems to have backed down. The company told radio station WJNO that Palm Beach Gardens location will now follow Uthmayer's directive, though they say they remain committed to welcoming all members. For LGBTQ Floridians, this is just another case of fear over facts and rights being trampled under political pressure. What's very disappointing, especially in I think a more educated part of Florida, and we have a political figure like this, making these accusations. I mean, certainly if you identify and you carry out the behaviors that are expected socially, you should be respected to use the facility you identify with,
Right.
end quote. We have crazy people who may run for governor like Matt Gaetz, and you look at all this other nonsense going on, and then this guy, has the nerve, Uthmayer has the nerve to start just, turning tables over and intimidating small business owners.
And just lie blatantly on camera and make it sound like a truth, talking about what assaults, what have happened. If anything, I'm only seeing the reports of cisgendered women who are being attacked while trying to go to the bathroom because they look too masculine. Now people are assuming, and now we're attacking the people who you are trying to protect.
Yes.
But that's the point of this whole story. That the clip that we have of the Attorney General does not identify the person as either a man or a transgendered woman. So I'm confused as to what this is about. Second of all, there's no police report. There have been no crimes that I've been made aware of. There's no story saying that anyone was attacked within the facilities of this particular gym. I'm confused as to what this is about, other than just a bunch of red meat being thrown to the Republican base here in Florida.
Right. I mean, if you tell a lie enough, it becomes the truth. That's their story. And I mean, did he not look like he wanted to be pissed on at IML this weekend in Chicago with that beard? And you know that there's a fucking harness under that suit. He looked like the biggest leather queen I have ever seen.
Yes.
Come on to my house. I'm gladly
We're doing good though with the seriousness.
We almost got there. Yeah, but no, like even this morning I saw one. There was this lady, I guess after her niece's school recital, she took her niece to McDonald's, and on the way to the bathroom at McDonald's, they assaulted her because she looked too butch, and they assumed that she was a trans woman.
Who assaulted her? Just the customers or the staff?
It didn't go into great detail. But yeah, of course. So now here's an example. You're talking about assaults are happening, but not the way they're claiming.
No.
It's not us. It's not the trans community. It's not the gay community. It's that crazy side of people who want to come in and make an excuse. So
and truly, if a trans person who presented as female went into a male locker room, can you imagine the result? The ramifications and the results of that. And the same way, on the other side, if a male trans went into
so
insanity.
I'm going to make this suggestion, and it's not going to be a popular one, and it's only because of the current political situation we're dealing with. I implore anyone, trans especially, you know where your environment is. Please use the facilities as little as possible. Go in, work out, be as pretty as you want, be as sloppy, sweaty as you want. But be
That's it,
safe.
safety,
Don't put yourself in that
Yeah.
position so that we have to talk about this on this show anymore.
Right.
I'm tired of these stories. Don't put yourself in harm's way. Get in, get out, go home, and be around people who can protect you.
Right, because the gym bathroom is no place to make your point.
And I'm disappointed that this particular gym, as much as they want to do the right thing, backed down because there's no law here broken. It's just innuendo, and it's a storyline from the Republican Party.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Buddy Frey, and let's queer up healthcare. House passes bill banning all trans health care by Obamacare, Medicaid, and CHIP. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed a sweeping and controversial bill that could dramatically reshape American healthcare and directly target the transgender community. After more than 24 hours of debate, the bill passed by a razor-thin margin of 215 to 214. Falsely nicknamed the Big Beautiful Bill by its supporters, the legislation is expected to add $2.4 trillion with a T to the national debt by increasing spending and cutting taxes. But much of its financing will come from deep cuts to federal health care programs, including a full ban on gender-affirming care for transgender people under Obamacare, Medicaid, and CHIP. This amendment removed the words minor, extending the ban to all transgender Americans. Under this bill, no Medicaid or CHIP funds can be used for gender-affirming care such as puberty blockers, hormone therapy, or surgery for anyone regardless of their age. And insurance plans sold on the Affordable Care Act exchanges, as well as those tied to the same coverage standards, will also be prohibited from covering gender transition procedures. This could be devastating for the estimated 152,000 transgender people who rely on Medicaid, particularly since fewer than half live in states that provide gender-affirming coverage. Mark Takano, an out gay Democrat from California, reacted to this bill saying, quote, "But that doesn't matter to Republicans in Congress. They need those cuts to pay for their billionaire buddies' tax cuts. Attacks on the trans community are just the cherry on top of them." End quote. The bill also slashes $500 billion from Medicare and removes Medicaid coverage for 8.7 million Americans. Democrats have unanimously opposed the legislation, joined by just 2 Republicans. The bill now heads to the Senate, where Republicans plan to use the reconciliation process to bypass a filibuster. With 53 Republican senators, its passage remains highly possible. And if it reaches the president's desk, he is expected to sign it, of course. I'm just stunned because we've worked so hard to try and get health care to as many people as possible in this country at affordable and fair rates and opportunities, because health care keeps people alive and it reduces health care costs for future.
Right.
And here we go and just decimate it.
A lot of their other legislation that they have tried to pass, it's been so vague, like, so not gender blockers, but hormone blockers. Aren't there other reasons that youth need to have hormone blockers? Sometimes it's other medical things going on.
Right.
So now we're saying it's probably going to have a general term, so no matter what's going on, they're going to not be allowed to have that, although it may be medically necessary for other reasons than transitioning.
Well, and you know, there's a denial that there are people who are intersex.
Right.
And they may present one way or the other. Who are they to make these decisions?
Right.
Everybody who's a citizen is entitled to the care that everyone else gets under these programs. You know, it's not that somebody's...
And their attempt for 152,000 people has grown to 8.7 million people.
Yes.
Most of which are probably in very red states with very little opportunity, with a lot of unemployment and poverty and needs.
It's just crazy to think that going after the most smallest, most marginalized, most like out of everyone you can pick on, you pick the most already attacked and underserved community, and that's where you're going to go. It's just, it's complete insanity, and it's definitely disheartening. But we're becoming used to it, unfortunately.
But we can't.
No.
We can't
Not
become used to it.
desensitized, but it's a fact. Every day now, it's a new thing that we're seeing. But
Keeps coming the
Right.
banners,
No,
yeah.
we can't be complacent.
No, exactly.
great word. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ community. If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on our favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support. If our community is to grow and thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Jasmine Pryce Lords, and on behalf of the LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Gregg Shapiro, Larry Farver, and Buddy Frey, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ world, we hope you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, be transformative and queer. Good night.
Good night.